Hello, this is the Scarlet and Rage podcast. Welcome. I am Michael, the voice of reason. This is my co-host, Jay, the voice of rage. Thank you, all of you who have liked and subscribed recently. I would encourage you, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you, those of you who have subscribed, got us over that next little milestone of 800, now hopefully pushing to 1,000. But we appreciate all of you that subscribe and tune in and listen regularly. Got a lot to talk about today. NFL draft, Buckeyes in the NFL draft, discuss our teams a little bit, Jay. But before we get into all of that, it's been another week that's gone by. It seems like sometimes to me, the week in between feels like a month because so much happens in my week. They're so busy from start to finish. I feel like I never stop. How about you?
You know, that's interesting you say that, is because I usually tell people if I don't have time, if I don't find the time to play video games anymore, I really have no time.
Yeah.
And
so
honestly,
are you saying you don't find the time to play them anymore?
I don't. I do not find the time to play them, man. I'm so busy at night between work and studying and all this different stuff and taking care of my kids. And yeah, man. But it's nice to have a little outlet that is this show, because I feel like all of my rage gets released in this show, which is good. It's good to have an outlet.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, coincidentally, speaking of video games, I picked up the EA Sports NCAA 25 for the first time since before we won the national championship.
Yeah.
I really had not played a game since we won. So
I haven't bought that game or played it since it's been out. And the fact that I was like desperately wanting it to come out for years and it comes out and I haven't even bought it and played it, that does show that I have been quite a bit busy, because I'm not a huge video game guy, but I would spend some time in the NCAA game, in the Madden game, sometimes even in the Major League Baseball, the show game. I would spend some time into those kind of things. But as far as like beyond the sports stuff, no, I didn't do it a whole lot.
Well, Mike, now that you're like a single guy and all, like you should get the one that comes out in July.
The NCAA?
Yeah.
Well, I probably will.
Let's play it together, man. We can play online.
I've never done the online, Jay. I'm old. It was that was like but when I was in college, like nobody played online yet. So
yeah, that is true.
I got out of college and like that's when all the online stuff started. And so I never really did it. So I've never played online. I don't even think I know how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's simple, man. Just you're gonna have to pay for like an Xbox Gold membership, I think. Honestly, dude, I don't even know if I've paid for mine in a while. I can just play online. I don't know. I don't know who's paying for that. I guess I should probably check my bank accounts or what's going on there, if they have a card on file, because you used to have to pay for a yearly, or you could do it like monthly, yearly. I would usually pay for the yearly subscription for a year Xbox Gold. And I forget what was different between Xbox Gold and Xbox Silver. I don't remember. What system do you have?
PlayStation.
PlayStation what?
Whatever the latest one is that 5?
PlayStation 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to play against each other, man. Because I have an Xbox.
Got it. Okay.
So, I think you need to get an Xbox, man. Xbox records that. But yeah, man, thank you for everyone. So, we have 800 subscribers, Michael. I know you kind of addressed that, but yeah, man, any more thoughts on that? That's quite a milestone for us, right? For two unknown people with like really no like celebrity background or any kind of like famous sports background. I think we're doing okay for ourselves. And remember, everyone, this isn't even our full-time job. You have to understand, all these other podcasts you try and compare us to, that's their full-time job. They don't have lives outside of their show. We do.
And the other thing is, I'll touch on this for a minute. We'll move on. In this space, it's not like the biggest people in this particular space have like 2 million subscribers or 500,000 subscribers. The biggest people in this particular space of like Ohio State, kind of Big Ten, have 30,000 subscribers, 35,000 subscribers. So yeah, I think, getting to 800 certainly is a milestone, and we're going to get to 1,000. We just, it's coming here soon.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see it coming until
at least the season, probably.
Yeah, probably not until the season, because we're not going to get anything in the summer. You know what we did get recently in the last week, man? We got some Texas fans. Where did they come from, and how did they get privy to our show?
I don't know, but clearly somebody saw that we claim to have insider information that this kid was going to Texas or Georgia.
Oh,
and
that's right.
And what happens the next day? The kid goes to Texas. So it wasn't the news that we wanted to bring you guys. It wasn't the insider information that we wanted. But as you see, my source was totally legit. And, he heard exactly what was taking place. And he told me that Ohio State's name wasn't mentioned. So, unfortunately that was the case, but I'm sure somebody sent that to them with what we had said, since it was either favorable to them or maybe it had even already happened. And they were just kind of like, oh, look at these Buckeyes that had an inside scoop that this guy was coming to Texas.
Yeah, man, Texas paid up, and I'm kind of jealous, envious of them in the off season and what they've done. But, since then, we did get that transfer from North Carolina. I like him a lot. But again, he's a defensive end. We need nose tackles, Michael. There's a big nose tackle that just entered from Oklahoma State. Ohio State's not going to get him. We only have one guy on the roster that's above 320 pounds. That's just inexcusable. It's just inexcusable, man. Ohio State does not value pure nose tackle. I'm not going to say defensive tackle, but they don't value those big 330-pound, just they're massive human beings that basically just stop the run just by standing there. They just take up space. Larry Johnson seems infatuated with those 280 to, 290 guys. I know, a few guys lately have been over 300 pounds, but for the most part, they're not massive pure nose tackles. The nose tackles you find in the NFL that are the first point of attack on a 3-4 defense.
Yeah. Well, and they've also had really big ends the last couple of years. I mean, not that necessarily helps with nose tackle, but the ends I don't think are probably going to be quite as big this year. And you hear that, there's a lot of this odd front talk, 3-4, which if you got another big guy to go with Malone, to go with McDonald, that would give you some options, to really run that 3-4, because you've got a lot of defensive ends that could play in that 3-4 system. And then you've got Hicks that you could bring off of the edge in that number 4 spot. So you got a lot of options in that odd front, but you've got to have, you do have to have the nose tackles. But that being said, Jay, getting the defensive end, the best defensive end on the board, that was a good get. He's going to help the defensive line. Is there still a need in the middle? There is, but the defensive line is at least better than the last podcast we had. It has improved.
No doubt. But it's, it didn't improve in the area I wanted to improve the most at. So
understand.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say there. But we're obviously going to get into the draft. But Michael, I think I need to rage for 2 minutes.
Okay.
And, obviously you want to wait until 10 minutes, because if I need to unleash a fury of I
got you. Okay. I thought you said you were going to rage for 2 minutes. You're going to rage in 2 minutes.
No. I think rage for 2 minutes, but I think I can preface this by saying I'm not an NBA fan as big as I used to be. I do follow it because, in my honest opinion, the basketball players are the best athletes in the world. Just look how big, long, and fast they are. They just are. They are the best athletes in the world. No one will ever convince me otherwise. But dude, my basketball team, Michael, they suck. They are so bad. And I know you don't follow the NBA, and I just want to rant for a second about the Detroit Pistons. I'm sick of them and I hate them. Yeah, I hate that effing franchise, man. They upset me so much. And honestly, I wasn't even trying to get drug into watching them in the playoffs. I knew they weren't very good. Cade Cunningham, we got 5 seconds. So I'm about to go off in about 2, 1. Cade Cunningham is a fucking bitch. I'm sick and fucking tired of people trying to hype him up. He's not very good. Yes, he's 6'6", but he's 6'6", and he doesn't have any handles. He's not overly explosive. And when you put bigger, longer players on him, like OG Anunoby of the Knicks, he's in trouble. He can't, against other long players, you basically are like, negating him. He's not somebody who can just beat somebody off the bounce like that. I don't know what they were thinking drafting Asar Thompson and Ron Holland. Like what? Like these are two like lengthier forwards, Michael, that neither one of them can shoot. Neither one of them can dribble. Yeah, they're great athletes and stuff, but they were top 10 picks. I would expect some offense. Like if you're a guy on the wing in Ron Holland and you're wide open by 10 feet for a 3-point shot, and you're only 6'8", by the way. You are 6'8", and you pass it up, that's a fucking problem. That's a roster problem. That's a roster problem. Like Karl Anthony Towns is 7 feet tall, and this motherfucker is lighting it up from 3. And you're telling me you're 6'8" and 6'6" and don't even want to attempt a shot? That's a fucking problem. It's also a fucking problem how small the team is inside. Yeah, Jalen Duren is 6'10", but he's all they got. 6'10" in the NBA is actually a short center, in my opinion. But
Jay, for those of us that don't follow, what's the Pistons' record?
they're in the playoffs. They made the playoffs, Michael. So here's the thing. They actually made the playoffs after having the worst record in the NBA like 3 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, because they got Cade. They got Jaden Ivey. They didn't have the worst record when they drafted Cade Cunningham. They basically had 4 years in a row of top 10 picks. So the first year they got Cade Cunningham, number 1 overall. The next year they got Jaden Ivey at like number 4. And I think that's basically where they kind of leveled out as like the 4th pick. The next year they had the worst record in the NBA. And that was the year that Victor Wembanyama from the Spurs. You know that prodigy, the 7'6" guy?
Yep.
From the Spurs. That was the year that I thought he should have been ours, but the Spurs were like the 5th worst record or whatever. And they have a draft lottery like they do in Major League Baseball now.
Well, Major League Baseball just started that thing.
Yeah, they just started it last year.
That is ridiculous. We're talking about the draft, the NFL draft, but while we're talking about drafts, the lottery system, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. It cost the Cincinnati Reds getting Paul Skeens out of LSU. If they would have him on their staff now, if they hadn't have done the lottery draft. So, but yeah. So anyhow, sorry. Back to the Pistons. So they've been really bad, and then this year they've improved. Their draft picks are starting to hit.
So I think I'm going to do a one-off show maybe in the middle of the week after they lose in 5 games to the Knicks. I'm not going to go into great detail or anything because obviously this is not really what this show is about. I just needed to rant today just because I'm so fucking angry and all I know is failure as a fan, Michael. I mean, for most of my teams, outside of Ohio State football.
But you're coming off of the national championship.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Outside of Ohio State football, and then the Pistons really in 2004 when I kind of first started following them, all I've known is failure. Like Ohio State basketball is a massive failure. The Cincinnati Reds are a massive failure. The Tennessee Titans are a massive failure. It's like all I know is failure, and all it does is keep me down and depressed all the time, and I can't take it anymore.
Well, that's why the only team I lose any sleep over, Jay, is the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that's why I've got a Bears shirt on with a Phillies hat, because I just have fun with professional sports.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about the draft and the Bengals.
Let me finish real quick. So, I thought we were going to get Victor Wembanyama. They didn't. And honestly, the Pistons finished with the absolute worst draft spot that year that you could have for the worst record in the NBA. Same thing happened last year, and I guess they accumulated enough talent to make the playoffs, and then I started following them some, and I'm like, man, this team fucking sucks. I'm watching them in the first game, and I'm like, this team made the playoffs? They shouldn't have made the playoffs. I understand they've been competitive with the Knicks, but let's not mistake ourselves. The Knicks are not a top 4 team in the NBA, and the Pistons are going to lose in 5 games to them. They should have been swept. It's just a poor showing. JB Bickerstaff, our head coach, is not good. It's really upsetting that Piston fans, and dude, I'm about to get banned off the message board again. I haven't posted on there in a long time. They're about to ban me. We've experienced such failure in the last 17 years that their expectations have done a complete 180 and they're happy to be here and all the team's playing hard and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck you guys. Like when the team actually starts like winning, then I'll be excited because in my opinion, if you're so bad as a team, kind of like the Reds and the Titans, I just don't follow you at all. But like when you're kind of in that area, like just good enough to keep my attention, then I'm like, well, I still want more. That's a terrible purgatory, Michael.
Well, yeah,
I just can't stand it.
It's a bad place. That's where the Reds have flirted with over the the last 15, 20 years. That's about as good as you get, as maybe mildly interesting, but really probably not going to be capable of doing much. But Jay,
let's get into the draft, Michael. Let's start
NFL
off with our Ohio State Buckeyes, man. What a draft, man. What a draft.
Am I counting right? I went down through my drafts thing. 13 Buckeyes go in the NFL draft. Is that right? Was it 13?
Incorrect. You're counting wrong, sir. 14. Okay, how many? It's 14.
Okay, I missed one.
We tied our program record and, came up just one short of the NFL record of Georgia that they had 3 years ago for their 2022 class.
15.
Yeah, just a great draft class for Ohio State representing the football program, man. Great overall draft. Just, Michael, college football is very top heavy right now. Georgia had 13 picks. Texas had 12. 150 out of the 257 picks in this draft were between the SEC and the Big Ten. That's crazy.
150 out of how many?
257. More than half. More than half. That's all. That's right. I'm not going to do the math.
Coming up on 60%, about 58.5%. Yeah.
What does that tell you, Michael?
Well, I mean, it tells you that, what we've been saying on this podcast for a while now. I mean, at least it tells me that it is the Big Ten and the SEC and everybody else. Like that's the landscape of college football. It's going to be very difficult for these other conferences to compete for national championships. I'm not saying it's impossible for a Clemson or a Florida State or some anomaly somewhere on a given year, but it's going to be challenging. And that shows because it's at every level. If you show me a high school that's producing a lot of Division I players, I'll show you a high school that's having success. If you show me a program that's producing a lot of NFL players, I'll show you a program that more than likely is having success. If you show me a couple of conferences that are producing the majority of the NFL players across all of college football, that means those two conferences are going to have the majority of success. And that's where we're at in the college football landscape today.
Yeah, man. Question for you, man. Obviously we know Ohio State had 14 picks. Georgia had 13 and Texas had 12. So, I said that Texas was our hardest game in the playoffs, but we kind of got lucky to avoid Georgia, a healthy Georgia in Atlanta in the national championship. So, Michael, would Ohio State have beaten Georgia in Atlanta, a home game for them, had they had a healthy Carson Beck? What do you think?
With Carson Beck healthy? I do. I do. And, I'll tell you why is while that was a good Georgia team and they were dangerous, I think what they did against Alabama made them more dangerous appearing than they actually were. Sure, Carson Beck could get hot but Alabama's defensive secondary at that time was extremely young and they were not very good. And so that was not the Ohio State secondary. The Ohio State secondary was not perfect. But I think that if you look at Georgia, Carson Beck against Texas's defense, if you look at him against a lot of the defenses in the SEC, you find that I really think that this defense would have held them in check. And I think that the offense was doing things towards the end of the year that no defense was going to stop. The play that they did with Jeremiah Smith that scored the touchdown, the walk-in where he gives the peace sign. No defense in the world has a chance on plays like that. Like Chip or Ryan, whoever dialed it up, forget it. Every defense is toast. Like you just got to scheme it the way they did and call it, and it's game over. So I think the Buckeyes would have beat Georgia. But I can see the argument that if they were healthy with Carson Beck, they may have been the toughest opponent, because they definitely have more talent than Notre Dame. But I was at that Notre Dame game live, and I'll say this: Notre Dame did beat Georgia up front. And so that's why, like, I'm a little hesitant to crown Georgia. Is maybe that changes if you've got the threat of Carson Beck, but they absolutely took it to Georgia on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and pretty much controlled it the whole game.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, man. I'm all for like hypothetical matchups. And Michael, I think we need to do a one-off show in the summer, man. The years that a college football playoff were needed. I think that would be a really good show. Just all the years, like, even with the BCS when there were two teams, I feel like there are so many years like a playoff was needed. But
yeah,
with that being said, I think we would have beat them by 7 to 10 points. It would have been harder than Notre Dame, that's for sure. Because, in my opinion, I said it, back a couple months ago, Georgia had the best defense in the country. But Ohio State had the best team at the end of the year. Our offense, defense, special teams, the amalgamation of everything. Ohio State was the best team, but Georgia had the best defense. So, and they would have been at home. So
and
here's that.
Here's the thing, Jay. The game, you were there live. That game could have gotten a lot uglier. If Emeka does not fumble on about the 20-yard line when they're marching down the field and it's about to be 38 to whatever it was, 38 to 7 or something. If he doesn't fumble right there, which he never fumbles, then, it could have been a real blowout. As it was, it ended up being, what was it, a 14-point game?
Yeah, I don't know. There were some other things, though, too, that Notre Dame was really lighting up our second. I was going to get into our secondary later on because there was something that popped out. But Notre Dame was really lighting up our secondary. There was, in the second half, we really weren't stopping them. Once they committed to actually throwing the ball every play, because they couldn't run on us outside of designed QB runs, and they – Riley Leonard was going to get hurt if they kept doing that. But Jeremiah Love couldn't run. But when they committed to the pass, we had nobody who could cover Jaden Greathouse. Their passing game was really lighting us up. And, they went for it on a 4th and 2, didn't get it. They also missed a field goal. So I think that kind of evened out. The score was what it was, So I think, Emeka fumbled once, but, Notre Dame messed up some times as well. Moving on, Ohio State had 4 first-round picks, Michael. And what made me most glad there is we had 2 offensive linemen drafted and the first-round defensive tackle since Ryan Pickett in 2001. That is great. I love it. But really shows how the interior, like I said before, has been a massive weakness for Ohio State in the 21st century. I just cannot stress enough how important powerful defensive tackles, especially nose tackles, are, Michael. Ohio State just they either don't put a premium on them or they do put a premium on them and can't get them. And honestly, I think I would prefer the former than the latter.
I mean, surely you would start putting a premium on them. I mean, that's the national championship model. You have to have the big boys on the defense. You got to have the big boys on offense. You got to have the lines. And so, that was had a couple offensive linemen in there, had the defensive lineman, and of course, another wide receiver.
Josh Simmons was a first-round pick, man. Unbelievable, missing half the year.
Yeah. He still was able to secure that first-round guarantee, so good for him. The second round, from this draft didn't have elite Buckeye talent. We've had plenty of drafts before that had more top end. Towards the bottom half of the first round, that's the first Buckeye. But from there on, is when you really begin to see why the team was as good as it was, because they had 7 of the top 50 players taken. And of course, 14 overall. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say? What do you want to hit on specifically? Any player, Sawyer, Tuamaloau?
Anybody, there are a couple specifics.
Anybody surprise you where they went to?
I wouldn't say anyone particularly surprised me, but there's one thing that jumps out, Michael. And the one thing that really jumps out, and what I just mentioned, and I was just talking about it, the pass defense, is the draft kind of showed to me and proved how the secondary was a weakness in 2024. Latham Ransom went in the 4th round. That's solid. But Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock both went in the 5th round. This isn't to mention that Davison Igbinosun, had he come out, he would have went undrafted. Notre Dame, like I said, they lit up that secondary for good reason. Ohio State, I don't know what it was, but we really needed to get back to getting those strapped down, locked down corners who are long and can sit on islands in zero coverage. That's the goal. If you have corners that can do that, you can essentially run any defense. But if you are a corner and you cannot play man coverage for longer than 3 seconds, or, be able to cover somebody, you shouldn't be playing football. Like, you have got to be able to play man coverage, man. And I really do think, Michael, speaking to our Michigan Wolverines fans here, Will Johnson dropped to the 2nd round. And I was wondering why that was. Some people were pointing out an injury and stuff like that. But, I've also heard that he's not great in man coverage. He's more of a zone corner. And if you're a zone corner, man, no matter how long you are, I think, he was listed at 6'2" at Michigan. I think he was officially like 6'1" and 7/8 or something, 6'1" and 6/8 or something like that. So he's 6'2".
Basically 6'2".
Yeah, basically 6'2". So, but at the same time, if you're mostly like more of a zone guy, yeah, you're not going to go in the 1st round. And that's what somebody told me on some internet message board, man. So I don't know. Thoughts on the secondary, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, it was an elite. We saw that for sure. And the draft bared it out. But I am optimistic with the secondary coming back. We won't get into that. That's for another show. But yeah, this secondary.
Not with Aaron Scott.
Yeah, this secondary didn't have top end talent for sure. Nobody was. What was the earliest 4th round you said?
Latham Ransom went in the 4th round.
Yeah,
that's
4th
correct.
round. Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, solid. I mean, it's good to have 3 NFL players back there, but not an elite bunch. That's all you can say. And, really, this team had a lot of good, and they had some really good, but they didn't have that, really over the top, high.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely had. I know, like, some people were trying to say it was the best Ohio State team of all time. It wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. Honestly, I would take our last 2 title teams over this one.
Yeah, I don't really have any disagreements with that.
Yeah,
great team, but a lot of really good.
Just a lot of really good players and some great players, but nothing elite. Jeremiah Smith is elite.
Yeah.
He's going to go in the top 3 or 4 in the 2027 draft. Yeah.
You're exactly right. But so there was elite there. It was just in the form of a freshman.
Correct. So, Michael, I want to leave the floor to you on our next subject, because I feel like that's it for Ohio State, and we'll mention some other players here in a moment. But the Bengals, Michael. I have heard some criticisms, and I literally just saw an article that basically had the rankings for all of the composite NFL teams, draft rankings, like a composite of everyone. And the Bengals finished dead last. Yeah, the Bengals finished dead last. And you are a massive Bengals fan. I like the Bengals. They are my second favorite team, and they are my team of Ohio if I had to pick one. But, Michael, you follow them. What are your thoughts, man? I mean, have you looked at this Bengals draft?
Yeah.
Tell me. The floor is yours.
an Ohio team here, so maybe we got a few Bengals fans. I know we got Slip and Skippy, a Pittsburgh fan in here, but
which
maybe
I really don't understand how. I would like him in the comments to explain why he is.
Yeah, he's a Pats fan and a Buckeyes fan. Okay, got it. We got a Pats fan, a Buckeyes fan here, and loves Travion. Awesome. Well, welcome. We appreciate you joining tonight. Bengals. First off, the Bengals are a disaster. I'm not emotionally invested in the Bengals from here on out. Like, I'm divorcing myself emotionally from them in any way. They're not serious people in Cincinnati about football. They're not serious. Like they're not. They gave $1 kajillion to 2 wide receivers, both of whom have had some injury problems. They've got all of their money wrapped up in a quarterback and 2 wide receivers. They have a terrible defense. They have a mediocre to below average offensive line. Hey, but we got a great quarterback and 2 really great wide receivers. And then so we're going to try and address some of these issues in the draft. Big fail. Totally looking on the optimistic side. Maybe the Bengals were secret geniuses and it all worked out. But more times than not in the NFL draft, people don't figure out these genius, unconventional, fool everybody type of selections. Like when, Baker Mayfield went number 1 overall by the Browns. My thought was risky move. Short, 5'11 and a half quarterback with a pretty good arm and moderate athletic ability. Risky move. But maybe they see something nobody else does. Well, no, it turned out Baker probably wasn't a number 1 overall type of pick. And so I think that these picks are the same. They don't look good on paper. I'm not going to break them all down. I could go through all of them for everybody. I'll go through the first 2. And I think that probably is sufficient for, the audience. First pick is a guy from, with the number 17 pick, a guy from Texas A&M who had 4.5 sacks in 3 years. Athletic freak, 6'5", 270 pounds, runs a 4.5 40-inch vertical. Athletic freak. What did he do on the football field? He had 4.5 sacks in 3 years. They did this 2 years ago where they took a kid from Clemson. Wasn't very productive. Had about 12 sacks, I think, in his college career, but wasn't super productive. And athletic freak, he's done nothing so far. They do it again. There's a reason that this guy's not getting sacks. And the justification is, well, he is disrupting a lot of plays. He barely misses the sacks. And if somebody can teach him a little better technique, he could end up being a great sack guy in the NFL. Maybe. I don't love that in the first round, a boom or bust type of pick. Like, take somebody who's going to help the team now. You need help now. Your defense was towards the bottom of the league. We don't have any more time for projects, and you've spent all your money on wide receivers. So it's a very frustrating place to be as a Bengals fan. And the second pick was a 25-year-old, 7-year college guy who'd been in college for 7 or 8 years. He's 25 years old, and he's supposed to be a good player, but come on, that's the kind of guy you're getting in the second round. And so I'll just leave it at that. It doesn't get a whole lot better from there. Nothing exciting. Nothing really worth getting too optimistic about in Cincinnati as far as the draft at face value, unless the Bengals have somehow miraculously found out how to kind of strike unseen gold.
Michael, that was a good rant by you, man. I'm proud of you. You got the rage out. And one thing, when the Bengals made the Super Bowl 3 years ago, right? 2021 season, made the Super Bowl, played the Rams. We're in a really close game. At the time, Joe Burrow is a young guy. I think he was in his second year in the league. And people are like, oh, the Bengals they'll be back. They'll be back. And, Joe Burrow is a young guy. And they came close once to going back in the AFC Championship. But
the very next year, his third year, they went to the AFC Championship. And then the year after that, he got hurt and missed the last 7 games of the season. And then his fifth year, they did what they did. They were good enough to get a not great draft pick, not good enough to go to the playoffs.
Yes. So what I'm getting at here is, the Bengals, they're kind of running out of time. And because the thing is, it's like the Super Bowl is so hard to make it unless you're Tom Brady, who's the greatest player of all time. Unless you're him or even Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the NFL and a top 5 quarterback of all time. It's really, really, really hard to make it to the Super Bowl. And when you make it and you're like a franchise like Cincinnati, you have to cash in when you get there. And everyone seems to put all their chips into Joe Burrow's basket. Like, oh yeah, he's young, he'll make it back. Well, he has to battle with Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. And it seems like the Chiefs are always at home. And, the Bengals, I know you complained a lot about their defense last year. Their defense, they fired that DC that led them to the Super Bowl, a couple of years ago. So there's been a lot of turnover there. And I don't know that I honestly, man, Michael, if I were to bet, I would say they don't make it back under Joe Burrow. It just seemed like too many people had the utmost confidence in them, but they haven't come, outside of 1 year, they really haven't come close, especially since then. And that's a problem.
Well, I don't think it will be because of Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is very capable of going back to the Super Bowl. I think it will be because of weak leadership in Cincinnati. And I do have an inside source very deep inside the complex there. And so I have heard some things. And, what I've heard is that the fans wanted the wide receivers to stay. They wanted the Jamar and T show. And so that's what they did. And Joe wanted it too. And, so that's what they did. That's why they're not serious. Do you think Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft would care if the fans wanted to keep 2 wide receivers and spend a crazy amount of money on them? No, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't do it.
Not at all.
Yeah. So that sums it up. There's no reason to invest emotionally when the ownership is just doesn't seem to be serious. Why continue to let them fool you? It is what it is. Ohio pro football is rough between the Bengals in the South and the Browns in the North.
Michael, do you like the Browns at all? Or no. Do you hate them or you just dislike them?
I just kind of don't like them that much.
Okay.
I don't hate them.
Do the Browns have a presence in Cincinnati? Much of one?
No, none.
Oh, okay.
None.
Okay. I don't know, man, because everyone tries to. So I wonder who has more fans in the state.
I kind of hate the Browns, a little.
All right. Well, who has more fans in Ohio, Browns or Bengals? I feel like people in Columbus need the Browns.
The Browns have more fans.
All right. Well, who has more fans between the Reds and Indians?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably more 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the Reds actually have a larger fan base. Yeah. Because, the Reds take up Southern Indiana, all of Kentucky.
Yeah, scoop up Kentucky. For years, Middle Tennessee, Clarksville, Nashville, that area, there was a lot of Reds fans there because it was either Reds or Braves. That was the 2 choices.
Well, is it still like that, or are you insinuating that it changed?
Well, I don't know if it's still like that because I haven't been there in many years.
All right. Well, what about where your family is in Chattanooga?
That's all Braves. That's all Braves fans in East Tennessee.
Okay, so your family over there, are they Braves or Reds?
Reds, because they're all from Ohio, but all the locals are Braves fans.
You're getting me a little worried there a little bit. So, yeah, man. Well, I guess that caps the Bengals. If you want to say anything else there, I guess I'll move on to my team.
I'm done. Give me the lowdown on the Titans draft here. Slip and Skippy says Titans had a decent draft. That's his take. So, Rage, what's your take?
Okay, so let's start at the top. We had the number 1 overall pick in the NFL in the 2025 NFL draft, Cam Ward. Don't get me wrong, Michael. This guy is a smooth operator and he's a damn good player. Best quarterback in the draft. But, Michael, he shouldn't have been the number 1 overall pick, in my opinion. The Titans have so many holes on their roster, man, and they have been so bad for so long that I really don't know what they were thinking here. In my opinion, they should have traded down and acquired more picks. They could have gotten maybe an elite pass rusher in Abdul Carter. But again, they needed somebody to also, go to number 1. I don't know that I looked into it enough to see if they were getting some serious offers for the number 1 overall spot to get Cam Ward. But I would have, maybe I'll look into it more and see. But outside of that, with Cam Ward, the rest of the draft I actually kind of liked. I will tell you this, man, the receiver from Stanford, Alec Ayamanor, just a baller, man, just a baller. And I've seen some of his highlights at Stanford. The guy isn't the best athlete, but dude, he makes some serious plays, man. In my opinion, he was one of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL draft. The guy I understand he played in the shitty ACC. The ACC really, really sucks. And man, that is just JV football. You go and watch the highlights of these guys. Now, Cam Ward, though, did light up Florida. That was his kind of good thing. And he also lit up a pretty good Iowa State team in the bowl game. So that's where I'm kind of like weighing Cam Ward in a different way. But, a lot of these ACC teams didn't play good teams out of conference.
So what do you think, Jay? Like, what is your gut feeling? Like, you seem to like actually, you're kind of like delineating between you really don't like the pick that much, but you also do think he's a really good player, just not a number 1 pick. So
yeah, I mean, if there was a quarterback I was going to go after in this draft, it would be him, but not number 1 overall. Like, he's somebody I would have gotten absolutely in the top 10. I'm not saying he's not a top 10 player, but just number 1 overall, man, you are expected to come in and fucking light the world on fire. And he's going to be the starter. He is going to be the starter. Like our quarterback, at the Titans has just been so rough. Will Levis is, man, I called that from the beginning. He sucked. Like, I said it a couple years ago. I think I was maybe texting you, or I don't know who I was texting, just saying like, man, Will Levis fucking sucks. And people are like, oh, the Steelers have a pretty good defense. And I'm like, no, they don't. Steelers defense isn't that fucking good. And man, he just didn't impress me because it was his second start. And I'm like, yep, he doesn't have it. And I called it. And a lot of Titans fans got mad, but I was right. I'm like, he does not have it. He was not an NFL quarterback. He won't last. And he didn't. He's done. He's done as a starter anyway. Khalil Maulings, our friend from the Michigan Wolverines, Michael, 6th round. That was a steal. That was an absolute steal. Love that guy's style. He's a beast of a running back. He was the best running back in the Ohio State-Michigan game between him, Travion, and Quinshawn. He was the best one. He's the biggest. He's got similar speed to Quinshawn with probably more power. I just love the Khalil Maulings pick. I mean, if you remember, he single-handedly won Michigan the game against USC back in September, early October, as a running back. Like, that doesn't happen very often. One thing I do not care about, Michael, is I don't like that the Titans continue to not care to ever draft Ohio State Buckeyes, and neither do the Bengals for that matter. I fell in love with the Titans franchise in the early 2000s because of Eddie George. And outside of him, we haven't really prioritized Ohio State Buckeyes, man. It's just, I feel like Donnie Nicky. Remember the safety Donnie Nicky from our 2003 national championship team? Like, he was on the Titans for like 8 or 9 years as like a reserve DB and special teams guy. But it seems like the Titans don't draft Ohio State players, man. Like, what the fuck? Where's the fucking love here? Like, fuck, man. Bengals don't either.
Yeah, they don't. You're exactly right. So overall, like, I mean, I'm hearing like you're kind of happy with the draft, maybe.
I would give the Titans draft B+.
B+, okay.
B+, yeah, because I didn't like the beginning parts of the draft, and I love the back end of it. So I think we got some really big steals in the back end of the draft. So I would give it a B plus, maybe a B. B between B and B plus. No, I liked the draft. I didn't love it. I liked it. Like in that composite rating, they ranked the Titans as like 15th, but there were some grades out there as having A pluses. But Michael, there is something that really bugs me.
Yeah.
You know who does love having Ohio State Buckeyes on their roster? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes, they do. They are big Buckeyes fans in Pittsburgh.
I feel so bad for Jack and Will Howard. It is so sad.
Yep.
I mean, they make a living there off a buck. I mean, Santonio Holmes, man, Super Bowl MVP of their last Super Bowl in 2009, which, by the way, I want to make it very clear. I want to make it very clear here that the Steelers in 2009 got really lucky. That the Titans. No, this is the truth. It's the truth. I don't even finish what I said.
Finish. Go ahead.
But this is the bane of being a Titans fan, because in the 2008-2009 season, the Tennessee Titans had the best team in the NFL. And we played the Ravens, of course, in the first round, and we lost. No, I mean, not the first round, but the divisional round. We had a bye. We had the number 1 overall seed, and we lost. We absolutely outplayed the Ravens so badly in that game, and we physically beat them up that they had really nothing left the next week against the Steelers. But when you turn the ball over 4 times, Michael, 2 of them inside, I think 3 of them inside the red zone, the Titans were driving to score, and they turned the ball over. That is just, that was Jeff Fisher in a nutshell, man. The biggest choke artist. The guy just could not get it done. The same thing happened in the 2000-2001 season. Yes, Slip and Skippy is right. The Titans blew. So here's the thing. The Titans' 2 best defensive players didn't even play in the regular season game when we blew out the Steelers that year. We blew them out without Albert Hainsworth and Kyle Vanden Bosch, and they would have played in the game in the playoffs, and we would have fucking killed them again. But somehow the Ravens just have our number, man. And it seems like every time we have a number 1 seed or something like that, they beat us. But then, the Bengals beat us when we had the number 1 seed a couple of years ago.
Is Albert Hainsworth, is he the guy from UT?
He is.
Okay.
One of the best defensive tackles I've ever seen.
I went to high school with a girl that had a child with him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you know her very well?
Pretty well. Yeah. One of my buddies dated her.
So one of your buddies dated her before Albert Hainsworth impregnated her? Okay. Well, when in the fuck did he do that? Have sex and do that? Well, did they marry? What was the story?
I don't want to reveal identities, because if I tell too much background, maybe somebody could possibly know. But I want to try to keep it private. But yeah, they were both college athletes, together. Yeah.
At Tennessee.
Correct. That's all I'll say. Just leave it at that.
Wow. Okay. Well, Albert Hainsworth doesn't like to use condoms, but it is what it is. Moving on. Fucking hell, man. Dude, Michael, and I know Slip and Skippy, you're not going to like this, man, but this is the truth. We pull no punches here. What's up with these godforsaken cocksuckers keep drafting our players? Fuck them, man. Fuck them and their worthless city. Pittsburgh really is the worst city in America, Michael. You have been there? Have you been there?
No, I've been to Pittsburgh, sure.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that fucking place, man? Seriously.
I'll say this. I'm going to be fair. I thought there was things about Pittsburgh that were charming and kind of cool. I also thought it was kind of a weird city. There was something a little different about it to me. I can't quite put my finger on it because I was only there for 2 days, but not a place that I yearn to go back to, Jay. I'll put it that way.
So I'm going to quote my dad here, because Michael, I lived in Pittsburgh for a year when I was a little child. Yeah, when I was a child, we moved around a lot. Lived there, I guess, in a place called North Hills.
Okay.
Don't know anything about it. I lived there from 1 to 2, maybe. I don't fucking know. And from what I understand, is they have some kind of weird, snobby, pretentious attitude, and they think they're some kind of East Coast city when they're not. Like the people there are not very friendly. It's yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. Like they think they're Philadelphia and they're not Philadelphia.
Okay, interesting.
It's kind of like that kind of vibe there. And not to mention, man, like I lived in Wheeling, West Virginia for a long time too. That place sucks. Let me just say, Wheeling, West Virginia fucking sucks. Yeah, I have family that live there, but fucking hell. Like when you go to visit, like Pittsburgh is essentially like Wheeling, but like 5 times bigger. It's like it's hard to get around. It's hilly. The roads are narrow. Like everything shuts down if it snows, and it's just ugly looking, man. Like Pittsburgh is ugly looking. I would that's what I've heard. I haven't been there since I was a kid, so I don't know. But I will say this: this is somebody who I knew back in the day really well, who lived in both Detroit and Pittsburgh, and he honestly said Detroit is a better place to live because there's more to do. What does that fucking tell you about Pittsburgh?
I don't doubt it. I haven't been to Detroit, but yeah, Pittsburgh is an interesting place for sure. But it's also a place that many Buckeyes end up. Now, Jay, last subject of the night.
I just want to point out one last thing before we get there. Is, I really do hate having to cheer against former players, but that's exactly what I'm going to have to do with Will Howard and Jack Sawyer, man. Like, fuck. And like one of my good friends was texting me, who's a Steelers fan, and he's like trying to suck off Will Howard. He doesn't even follow college football. He's like, oh, Will Howard's going to save us and lead us to the next Super Bowl. I'm like, did you watch Will Howard close enough?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Will Howard going in what, the 5th, 6th round? Which round did he go in?
One of the two.
I think it was 6.
Yeah, he went late.
Yeah, he went late. Like I will say this. Everything that I said about Will Howard was right. The playoffs saved him because he was an undrafted quarterback outside of that playoff run. Those are fucking facts. Ryan Day, 6th round. Ryan Day, props to him for kind of saving Will Howard because he finally started throwing to set up the run. And that's what you do with a struggling quarterback who doesn't really, you can't put these quarterbacks in 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8. They're not going to thrive there because everyone knows the pass is coming. But when you start throwing on 1st and 2nd down and give them confidence and keep defenses off balance, then things, work so much better. And yeah, Will Howard is not an NFL quarterback. He will never be a starter. He doesn't have the arm strength. And really, Michael, he's not that good of a runner either. We know this. But, good for him. He'll be a career backup. Great. I hope he leaves Pittsburgh at some point and maybe after like 2 or 3 years and goes somewhere else and gets onto a better situation because no one wants to fucking play there, I hope. But yeah.
Jay, last subject.
Go ahead.
Let's play boom or bust here. We'll give our take on, there's another quarterback who got drafted late. The biggest story of the weekend, Shedeur Sanders. We're going to give our call whether he's going to be a boom or a bust. If you're in the chat, drop in the chat. Do you think Sanders is going to be a boom or a bust? Give us your thoughts. We're going to give our thoughts on it now.
Well, can you really be a bust if you're in the 5th round?
Well, yeah, you go from a busted draft stock to a busted player. So that just like everything's a bust. He went from busting in the draft to busting on the field. So in a sense, yeah, I think he could be a bust. So, but obviously bust being he's not going to be any good. Boom. He's going to be a somewhat successful, we'll say moderately successful NFL starter. The kind of starter that can win a playoff game, maybe even 2 playoff games. Does he have that kind of potential? He thought he was going to be a 1st rounder. He thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. He goes in, was it the 5th round?
Yeah, 5th round of the Cleveland Browns.
He goes in the 5th round. Wow. Absolutely shocking to most people. A statement from the NFL almost that, some of the antics and some of the things that really seemed a little out of control at times in Colorado. I think the NFL clearly made a statement. They're not a fan of that. And his talent was not high enough to offset some of that. And I agree with the NFL. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he's going to be a bust. I think there's a reason why he got taken in the 5th round because he's more of a third to fifth round kind of quarterback than he is a first round top 10 pick. That's my opinion.
Michael, I think I'm on the other side of the fence of this.
Okay.
And I really don't understand what's up with the hate for him. So is it confirmed that he came off as like cocky in these interviews or something? Like, I don't know. I mean, there are rumors that he interviewed really, really bad. And I don't know what the truth is, man. But to be honest, he was a damn good college quarterback, man, and I think he was a great pick for what he is in the 5th round by the Clowns, and I call them the Cleveland
I
Clowns.
agree with that he was a great 5th round pick.
Oh yeah, he's got a healthy arm and good elusiveness in the pocket. No, he's not Cam Ward. He's I think I would take Dylan Gabriel over him, which the Browns also pick, but. Great value pick. So based on the pick, he's absolutely a boom. Is his career going to be a bust? Too early to say. I mean, he's with Cleveland. So, I mean, Baker Mayfield got out of there and has been fine in Tampa Bay. He's been actually been above average, I think. Yeah, he's been fine. So considering, well, he was the number 1 overall pick. So he's still a bust, I would say, because you're expected to perform better than he has. I will say this. I really do wonder if his BYU game tape cost him a lot of money because they got absolutely floored in that game. But Michael, for everyone blasting this guy's character and everything, with all of these people sitting out bowl games and being like, everyone saying like Shador's me. Well, he played in the bowl game. He and Travis Hunter did not need to play in that game, but they both did. So I have a lot of respect for both of them. I don't understand all of the hate that is coming towards him. Okay, he interviewed bad, but you know what? I would like to know what was said in those interviews. I'm not going to judge somebody off these interviews. What exactly was said that triggered so many teams? I need to really know. I don't know if it's ever going to come out. It's always going to be anecdotal. But I can tell you the actions just from him playing in the bowl game. I mean, if you're going to criticize him for these interviews, you should be criticizing all of these piece of shit players who sit out bowl games and fucking let down their teammates and basically blow these games, and they just don't care. They care about themselves, obviously, more right there, which is the same exact fucking thing. So it's I think it's kind of hypocritical here, honestly.
Well, we will probably never know. But like what we do know is he definitely turned off a lot of NFL teams with whatever he said and whatever kind of presentation he gave in those interviews, because talent wise, he was consensus a top 20, even higher than that really, but a top 20 type player. And, so it's rare that you see such a precipitous fall unless there's a major character concern. And, I could easily have seen him slipping to the 2nd round. That's kind of where I thought in today's quarterback market, he should have gone like 2nd, 3rd round. I could see maybe reaching up into the 2nd. I didn't think he was 1st round type guy. It doesn't mean he's a bad player. I just wasn't convinced from the competition he played and the things that I saw. But at this point, he's got to try and prove it in Cleveland. He's got an uphill battle. And Jay, that's all I got for tonight. You got anything else to add?
One more thing. Did you hear about that he got prank called?
No.
He apparently got prank called during the NFL draft because, everyone has their cell phones on them and this, that, and the other. But apparently it was the son of the current Falcons defensive coordinator who prank called him and said he was getting drafted. He prank called him. That's really fucked up, man. I would, I would not be against like putting Shador Sanders and this guy in a room together and having them go Mortal Kombat.
I'm going to say this, Jay. I agree with Slip and Skippy. He says, I'm tired of people saying he played against bad college teams. I did just say that. Josh Allen played for Wyoming and their conference is unknown. Yeah, I give you that 100%.
These people are more exceptions than the rule.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. They are more exceptions than the rule, but I'll certainly concede that it is possible. There are quarterbacks that don't play against top competition that end up being very good. Time will tell, Jay. But thank you guys for watching tonight. Appreciate it.
Like, subscribe, tell all your friends, man.
Yep, and we'll be back.
And we're growing.
We'll be back next Monday night. Monday nights from here on out. Thank you, and we'll see you then.